How's it going?
I'm doing all right. It's a beautiful evening, and I'm looking forward to talking to you.
It's always good to chat with you as well. Something interesting always happens whenever we talk, it seems like.
Yeah, exactly right. Sometimes we predict some of the craziest burning events. Foraging this hawk.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I guess let's just jump right into it. I heard a little whisper about a world record-breaking attempt for a bird called a Cerulean warbler. What did you try to do? What's going on here?
So about 2 weeks ago, we attempted this incredible world record attempt for this incredibly cool bird that a lot of the listeners may or may not know about. That's the color of this shirt. It's the Cerulean warbler, this magical bird that winters in South America. This thing is tiny, and they live in the treetops, and they're really rare. Like most of the time, you might see 0 of them on, most of the birding outings you go on, and you're lucky to get 1. But we sort of knew that this area, the Allegan State Game Area, which is one of the absolute great wildernesses of the state of Michigan and the southern part of the state, is home to a great number of them. But we didn't know how many, and we thought, let's get in the boat and let's see what we can do.
Yeah. So something else unique about the Allegan State Game Area is that it has the Kalamazoo River running through it, which is useful for 2 reasons, in my opinion. One is that the Cerulean warbler loves little breaks in the canopy. So if a big old oak falls down and has a big gap in the canopy because of it, you often find Cerulean warblers there. And I'm guessing it's a similar effect for the river, where the canopy breaks for a short little period there.
Absolutely. And as I zoom in on the imagery here of the actual river that we floated, you can see that along the edges of this floodplain forest here is the river itself. And so it seems really obvious that these birds love to be right along the river's edge. And that is so convenient because we can just float the entire length of it here and try to see how many we can find.
Yeah, so I'll pull up this video that you took of just what the vibe at the river is like. There we go. So what are you hearing? What are you seeing when you're floating along the river like this?
This was such a gorgeous morning, and it was late May. So the warblers and all of the migrant birds that come through from the tropics were in at this time. So not just the nesting cerulean warblers that we were counting, but the place was alive with things like blackpoll warblers and Canada warblers, things that are fairly uncommon, but you find them during migration. And the woods were alive with song. It was spectacular.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. I wish I could have been there. So this world record-breaking attempt, what was the record, and what did you think you were going to get?
So the record that we're aware of, at least in the eBird database, is that there's one checklist from Arkansas that had 104 individuals on one checklist, and that is remarkable. That is an incredibly high amount. Little did we know we had a shot at breaking that, even in Michigan, which is at the far north end of this bird's range.
So let's pull up that map with the tick marks of every time you observed a Cerulean warbler. And I bet most of these were male singing, right?
Absolutely. In fact, all of them were males singing. So we put in the boat down here. This river flows to the north. We put in here and in the early morning hour. And then as we move along through the river like this, we're listening in both directions to the east and west bank. And if we hear one, we stop and we put a GPS pin down, and we call it C for Cerulean. We were also that morning counting prothonotary warblers, which is seen by these P's here. And so as you float, you just mark all of the singing males as you go. And so I've got C4, C5, C6, and so on. We'll back out here. And as you float through, pretty quickly, we're getting to 20 birds. Even in the first couple miles of the float, we were already at 40 Cerulean warblers. The density of these things along the river is phenomenal. And it's really the only way to see them. I mean, you could try to hike through this stuff, but good luck.
Yeah, it's thick and it's wet.
And, and it can be buggy, and the terrain can be really difficult to hike through. But you get in that boat and it's like super quiet, and it's so tranquil and peaceful. It was incredibly enjoyable to be out there.
Yeah. So I think you also have some footage of just like a little listen to what it sounded like when all the birds were singing in the morning.
Yeah, let's play this.
Tennessee warbler. That's like 45 of them we've had so far. That's the cerulean. Least flycatcher. That's a cerulean there, and then there's a cerulean also on this side. This is kind of what it's like here, is like having to determine, are there two, are there three? Takes a lot of listening and practice to get that right. Baltimore Orioles up in the maple here.
That is just so cool. The amount of diversity in that bird song there. And then I understand that you also found something that you weren't expecting on this float, right?
We did. In fact, let me play you the moment of discovery here. You ready?
Sure.
Hey everybody, checking back in. Got a summer tanager here. This is actually very, very rare in Allegan County.
Also the color of my shirt in the video.
Yeah.
Can hear him singing next to the chestnut-sided. Bird's kind of goofing around up here.
Right there.
There's that song. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let me show a picture.
Scarlet, but not enough burriness to it. It's kind of a real easy one to miss.
Yeah. So here's that summer tanager.
That is the exact individual. That's a photo that I took of it. It took some work to track it down. But what was so exciting is the guy that I was with, Rick, has been birding Allegan County since he was a little kid. This is only the second time he's ever seen a summer tanager in that county. So in addition to the Cerulean warbler, we were lucky to get a really rare bird too.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. I have one other clip, Will, that you might want to check out here. Watch this.
Yeah. The woods are just absolute birds this morning. Blackpoll warblers are singing up a storm. I think we've had almost 20. Tennessees are going crazy. Give you an idea what we got here.
Blackpoll warblers nest in Alaska, and they were coming through in good numbers from South America.
Blackpoll to the right there. Tennessee. Cerulean to the right.
Right there was the Blackpoll. That little tit, 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 tit.
Oh, about to get flipped over here.
That's so
And those
cool.
videos really give you a good idea of just how difficult birding can be by ear. When you start to figure all these songs out, it is so rewarding though, because, you know, especially when the leaves are out, it's so difficult to see all these species. It's way easier to hear them. And the survey work that we did was virtually, in fact, I would say it was 100% by ear. I don't think we saw a single one of the ceruleans that we heard of. Yeah.
So I hate to be impatient here, but we're talking about a world record of 104 cerulean warblers. Did you approach that number? At what point in the day did you approach that number? Fill me in.
Yeah, Will. So let's go back to the map here. And as I said, as we got into this, maybe a quarter of the way in, we were already to 40 ceruleans. We got to 100 by this point here. If I zoom out, the takeout is here. So that's only about halfway through. I mean, and at that point, we're thinking, what are we going to get? Are we going to get 200? So we pretty quickly surpassed 104 right there with that individual. And then it was just the onslaught just continued. It was just absolutely wonderful. So as we go in,
the world record destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. At that point we knew we were going to have it. So we went to 121, 126, and then as we got closer to the end here, they did start to finally thin out, and we hit number 135 right there on the banks of the Kalamazoo. And then the final 2 or 3 miles, we had some prothonotary and the summer tanager, but we didn't have any more ceruleans. So we ended this day with 135 cerulean warblers. And it is difficult to communicate to folks who have not birded just how insane of a total that is, especially when you're in Michigan and you're not in the core of the range, which is sort of down south. Places like Ohio, Missouri, Kentucky.
Arkansas, yeah. I mean, earlier in the spring, we were birding at in Berry County, and we had, I think, 12 on a checklist. And we were like, wow, there are a lot of ceruleans around here. I'm happy to see 1 or 2,
Yeah. 12 is remarkable. I mean, and any normal kind of checklist, people would be freaking out to have that many of these things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was really a once in a lifetime thing. We've always dreamed of doing this, and we finally hit it when the weather was right, and we did it in the right time of year. They were all singing. They weren't all tied down with nesting and whatnot. And I really just think that it exemplifies how awesome the habitat is in these DNR state-owned properties, and the opportunities for people. You know, that place is open to the public. Like anybody can go in there, and the wildlife that is present in there, is intended for hunters. At least the funding streams are intended for hunters, but everybody can go in there. And you know, we chose Cerulean warblers. You could have focused on prothonotarians. I think we found 72 of them, and that's a rare bird too. And then you get into, you know, we had like nearly 100 species of birds that day of all stripes. So it's just, you know, there's so much endless adventure to be had out there, and I really hope that people, you know, understand and value that. And you know, even if you don't want to get out of your house, you can still see a lot of these migrant birds as they come through your yard. But if you are able to get out, you know, and explore some of these places, the sky is the limit. You just never know what you're going to find.
Yeah, it really underscores how important it is to protect these wild areas and to appreciate them, because they are, especially these state game areas, they are very special.
Absolutely. And, you know, just on a personal side, the ability to go out and actually realistically set a world record like this is mind-blowing. I thought we'd get a lot. I did not know we were going to get 135 of these birds. And it also makes me wonder, let me add one other little teaser to the story here. Look at the extent of this forest as I zoom out here. The river is just in that little section. We know that there are ceruleans throughout this gigantic Allegan State Game Area forest, and but we don't know how many. I mean, so if there's 135 pairs along the river, how many are there in these forests off the river, you know, here and down into these areas?
Hundreds.
And it's going to be probably hundreds more. We don't know the answer, but some intrepid observer out there, maybe one of the listeners, would be interested in hiking through those forests and starting to count them up. Be pretty interesting.
Yep. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time and filling me in about this. I'm sure I really appreciate it, and I'm sure the listeners really appreciate it. And congratulations. What an awesome record.
Thanks so much, man. It was awesome. It was just an incredible day. Happy to share it, and always good to talk with you, Will.
Yep, always a pleasure, man. Peace.
Till next time.